what that guidance is that our office has provided for several years is that if you would like to sort of stake your residence as Minnesota, it's clear in that handout that you have to pick, and so you pick that you are living here. As Representative Purcell said, you've lived here for at least 20 days. You meet the other requirements to vote in Minnesota, and that you pick whether you want to vote in the other state, maybe where you grew up, or you pick that you're going to vote here in Minnesota. And I guess mechanically after the election, our county election staff run reports to look for double voting, and then if there are instances of double voting or suspected double voting, that gets passed to county attorneys and local law enforcement for investigation.
Representative Torkelson?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, but those double voting reports are strictly by state. Am I correct about that? So they wouldn't actually catch any multiple state offenses.
Nicole Freeman?
That's true. Right now in Minnesota, we don't compare with other states.
Lead Torkelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that's one point. When a student decides to, pick where they're going to vote in any particular election, is that enforced for a certain period of time, or can they vote in Minnesota in a primary and then vote in their home state in the general election? How is that? What are the mechanics of that?
Nicole Freeman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So similar to if someone moves in between a primary and a general, there is, someone can choose where they are a resident for the last 20 days. If they've been a resident of the state of Minnesota, they could vote in the election. So if I think you could take it as a student or as any person. So if a much older person lived in another state and claimed residency in that state in August and voted in there, and that's when their primary was in that state, they could vote there. And if they moved and met residency requirements under state statute in Minnesota, they could then vote in Minnesota in the general in November.
Representative Torkelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now I'm getting even more confused. So, but students have that option to vote at their home address where their parents live, for instance, or to vote at their college address. Is that correct?
Nicole Freeman? Briefly.
Thank you. Yes, that's correct. Given it would depend where the student sort of feels that they intend to return. I think there's like 13 points in the definition of residence for voter registration. I can't remember the citation off the top of my head, but it's sort of depending on how the person identifies, how that prospective voter identifies and categorizes themselves. Some people come to Minnesota to come to school and intend to remain here, and then there's other folks who change their mind or intend to leave. So
thank you.
Representative Torkelson?
Thank you. And so, Mr. Chair, and to the testifier, then does the student have that choice in every election? Can they jump back and forth at will?
Nicole Freeman?
thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't believe there's anything in state statute that would prohibit someone from doing that.
Thank you. Very interesting.